Lieutenant David Jacoby, United States Navy Reserve. I joined the military in the spring of 2001, about 6 months before 9/11, and I just had a feeling that I needed to serve my country in more of a capacity than voting and being a citizen. I wanted to do more. I always wanted to. My father was in the Navy, his father was in the Navy. Both of them and another uncle were in 3 different wars. I felt it was my need, my time to do something, and I had the opportunity. I pulled into recruiter station. I asked about special programs in the Navy. I looked at a couple other branches, and the Navy had the best program. I joined. I did my training. About 6 months into the training, 9/11 happened, and I knew it was the best decision I had made. I was so proud to be in the uniform, and when I went to boot camp, and we finished boot camp, and they played that national anthem, and I was in the uniform, tears were streaming on the ground. I was so proud. About 2 years later, I was finished my training. I joined my first unit. The first unit was in Common Reserve 6th Fleet, which was a sub-searcher command, P3s, and our whole purpose was to find where the Soviet subs were, Russian subs were at this point, and it was an older unit. It was about to be decommissioned, but in the meantime, I got to Italy 5 times in the next 3 years on annual training and additional duty training. And during that time, I got to learn what big Navy was like. When they talked about the fleet, what it was like. I got to learn what it means to serve the bigger Navy. One of my consumers was an admiral who was planning on taking the 6th Fleet from location to location within the Mediterranean. He wanted to know if it was safe. And my job was to come up with a quick PowerPoint presentation on the dangers. And it was pretty exciting for me. The question I had is, do you know anything about PowerPoint? Yeah, I could handle that as a teacher. Could you put it together? Yes, I could put it together. And in a very quick period of time, I started throwing together force protection briefs, and the admiral liked it to the point where he said, I don't want to hear this from the captain to whom Jacoby used to be presenting. He wanted to hear right from me, and that scared the heck out of me. I was standing as an intelligence specialist, 2nd class, in front of an admiral, wondering for sure if he did put on one pair of pants, or one leg of the pants at a time. And sure enough, he did. He was a nice guy. That was a good experience. About 5 years after I was with that unit, I started looking into a commission, and in 2006, I was able to get a commission in the U.S. Navy as an intelligence officer. Went to a whole new set of training, a whole new unit down in Washington, D.C. I was assigned to Defense Intelligence Agency in the Pentagon, and for the next several years, my drill duty was in that huge building, which was a great experience. During that time, I got deployed to Italy for 6 months, to Naples, Italy, in service of the 4-star Admiral, Admiral Ulrich, and as a part of his 10-man intelligence team. We put together different briefs for what problems that were happening in the European Command, and Africa at the time was a part of the European Command. It was a great duty, and when I came back, I did a few more ATs. I did an exercise in Korea, an exercise in Hawaii, an exercise in England. So I had some great experiences, again, finding out what the fleet was doing. And in around 2008, I started itching to do something even bigger. And I talked to my commanding officer and asked him if there's any possibility of being mobilized. And he said there are several people ahead of me. All of them were either new husbands or new parents. And I thought it was a time for me to step up and volunteer to get ahead of them. I volunteered to be mobilized, and in 2009, I got the phone call and I got the letter that I'd be mobilized to Iraq for 1 year. And in March of 2009, I started going through the motions of getting the medical preparations, that sort of thing. And in April of 2009, I was to report to my unit, and from there I went to Norfolk to get my chemical suits and get some orientations, and down to Jacksonville. And for 2 weeks of Army training, which was a big deal for the Navy because we don't know anything about the Army. We don't know how to fire weapons. In fact, we called them guns, and that was a bad thing. We learned what the good and bad side of the weapon was, We learned how to fire it, take it apart. We learned how to march to drive Humvees. We learned how to fire all sorts of weapons. We learned how to do orienteering. We learned how to hold a perimeter. We learned how to be essentially badass Army guys in Army uniforms with one patch that said U.S. Navy on it. And that was exciting. And then a lot of us, there's about 55 of us, shipped out to different areas. A couple of us went to where I was in Balad, Iraq. Most people were going to Iraq, some to Afghanistan, some to the Horn of Africa, and there was one guy going to Tampa, Florida. We called that Afghanistan, and we all laughed at him. So I was in Iraq for a year. When I got there, they say the training is drinking through a fire hose, and that's how it felt. For the next 3 weeks, I was expected to learn everything about Iraq in a short period of time. I tried to do my job as best as possible, and I really think what I did is learn to find the right people who are smart. And for the rest of my year in Iraq, I really didn't need to learn about my job. I just had to learn how to find the right people to help me with my job. And it was a great experience. During that time, I learned truly what camaraderie is. I learned what friendships were all about. I learned what true loyalty was, purpose, a cause. And I'd say probably being in Iraq for that year was the most influential experience that I've ever had in my life.